95% of people lose money when trading. That's a statistic you guys have probably heard a lot thrown around in the Forex industry. But did you also know that gold is the pair, according to most prop firms, that people lose the most on? Now, in today's video, I'm going to be aiming to solve that problem by giving you guys a free 5% winning strategy that I've personally used over the past 3 years to consistently make money on gold. This is also going to be the first part in a series where we backtest the entirety of 2024, going from the beginning all the way up into the end, where we backtest the strategy over the entire year. Now, I won't waste any more time. Let's jump right over to the charts and let's get straight into the video. All right, guys, so before we get into the backtesting itself, for anybody new to the channel, I'm going to be walking you through the full trading plan and strategy that we're going to be testing first of all. If you've seen any of my previous backtesting videos on any of the pairs that I trade, you guys would have already seen this trading plan walkthrough, so I will put the chapters at the bottom of the screen. You can skip ahead to the backtesting itself, but for anybody new to the channel, here is the full trading plan walkthrough, right? So, like I said, this is a simple price action strategy that you can use on any pair, but it works especially well on gold. Gold is my most profitable pair out of the four that I trade. So, getting right into things, step one is overall just identifying market structure and direction. We're doing this on the daily and 4 hour and then looking to work our way down. So once we've identified daily and 4 hour direction, essentially we're just looking to take trades in line with this overall trend for the highest probability setups only. I focus on taking only high quality setups and yeah, just focusing on that quality aspect rather than quantity. After we've done this, we're then using the 4 hour and 1 hour just to identify more refined structure and draw on previous mitigations. What I essentially mean by this, right, is if we look at this picture here, so we can see we've got the B and the C. This stands for breaker structure and the C is change of character. For anybody unfamiliar, a breaker structure is just essentially when in an uptrend, price breaks the current high. So this is a breaker structure just here. This is a breaker structure just here because price broke the most recent high. A change of character is very simply when price closes below the most recent high or low in an uptrend and is an indication of a trend reversal. So this here would be a change of character because price went from an uptrend into a downtrend, breaking past the current high or low. In a downtrend, a change of character would be if price breaks above the current lower high. So in this case right here. And as before, you also have your breaks of structure when price breaks into new lows. So that's essentially what that means. And what I mean by previous mitigations is just essentially when price comes up and reacts from supply, I'm marking that on with a box just so I'm aware of where price has previously reacted from, which is going to give us a nice indication of where it wants to move going forward and where we're looking for our points of interest, which brings us over to step two, which is to identify within the current trend leg. So for example, if price is bearish, we're looking between the high and the low of the current trend leg. We're looking for a valid point of interest. So for me personally, a valid point of interest is in an imbalanced supply or demand, which price could pull back into. And I have a few different criteria for this. Essentially, it needs to be imbalanced and it has some liquidity below it. So in this case, we can see this area up here, it was an imbalanced supply. It had some liquidity below it. So this is a valid area which I would look to short from. However, we're not just looking to simply set a limit or anything like that on these areas of supply and demand. We're looking to wait for price to develop and give us an entry confirmation. So we need to see some sort of confirmation that price wants to hold the zone rather than just selling or buying straight from it. So this is where the step 3 comes into play, which is the M5 confirmation. All I'm simply doing here is going down to the M5 time frame and I'm waiting for the M5 to flip back in line with higher time frames. So for example, if we're looking for some sells, let's imagine this is our supply zone. If price is pulling back to this level, it's going to be overall printing this bullish structure on the M5 time frame. So all I'm simply waiting for is for price to come into this supply, break past the current high or low, giving us a change of character, and then I'm simply looking to execute as long as price has created some imbalance. Imbalance for the entry is crucial. I need to see price both give a change of character and create some imbalance before actually entering the trade. If there's no imbalance, there's no trade. It's as simple as that. And that's literally it. On step 3, that's all I'm looking for. M5 change of character inside the point of interest, and then simply looking to execute, right? In terms of stop losses and take profits, stop loss for me is in a place that invalidates the trade. So if we're looking for this short position, the stop loss would for me be above the high. If it comes any higher than that, the trade is invalid. I don't want to be involved. So that's what I essentially mean by that. Stops above the high, or if you're looking for buys, stops above the low. And now this is where things kind of become a lot more simplified as opposed to many of the strategies you've probably seen already on YouTube, which is just to use a mechanical 1 to 3 risk to reward. And by the way, this isn't just some random number I plucked from thin air. It is based on several years worth of forward testing and also several more years worth of back tested data. And it's the optimal risk to reward that I've personally found over all of that data. So mechanically setting TP at 1 to 3. I don't make break even, I don't take partials, I simply let the trade run to stop loss or take profit. Again, that's not some random rule I've created, that is based on an abundance of data. So this is definitely one of the things that has been a massive game changer for my trading, is just to mechanically target a 1 to 3. It kind of takes out all of the discretion and uncertainty in terms of where you're targeting. So like I said, massive game changer if you haven't already tried this. But that is what we're going to be essentially testing in today's video in the backtesting session itself. And that's really everything you guys need to know for this, the sake of this video. Obviously, when we're live trading, I'm using 1% risk. By the way, this trading plan will be available completely for free in the description below if you guys want to download it, keep it on your desk, or just read through it in more detail, more slowly in your own time, so you make sure you take in all the information. I've also included at the bottom some of the key processes I use and how I exactly do those, such as trade journaling and something called ASR, which is explained down here for you guys as well. So that's available for free in the description below if you guys want to check it out. That is everything for today's video though. So let's go over to the charts now and let's jump straight into the backtesting itself. Alright guys, so thank you for joining me here over on the chart. So we'll get right into things. We'll go out to the daily chart. If you guys remember from the trading plan, the first step is to essentially just look at overall higher time frame direction and trend. What I'm really focusing on here is this price action that's in the frame at the moment. So we've seen price kind of come down. We've had this shift bullish on the daily time frame. That's where we had that initial change of character from bearish daily price action to this bullish daily price action. Can see price has come back down, reacted from and held this area of demand right here. We've then seen it push back up again, breaking new highs once again and creating a higher high. Price has then come back down, reacted from this sort of demand, and then very recently we've had this push away from that demand. Now going over to the 4 hour, we can slightly refine this area right here to that candle just there. In terms of 4 hour price action, we've seen price grab the lows, shift back bullish just here internally. So whereas before it came down bearish, it flipped back bullish here, right? The only thing I am thinking here is the fact that we've kind of had this big push up now, and you can see price starting to correct itself, and it has reacted from this sort of premium area of supply. This whole range here is quite efficient, meaning that there's not really any imbalance. So what I am thinking and what I would be looking out for here is potentially looking for some more selling opportunities, maybe back down towards this imbalance that price created. Obviously overall it is still bullish, so I would still be interested in some potential buys as well if they presented, but I would also be interested in the sells. And this is one of the things I like to emphasize inside to the guys inside VIP, which is that instead of predicting price, our job as traders is to observe price and then react to what it shows you. So for example, here I wouldn't be keeping a fixed bias. I would be kind of monitoring to see if price presents some buying opportunities or whether it presents some more selling opportunities, because the overall higher time frame direction is a little bit more ambiguous. We could see price retrace back down to here, or we could just see it rally instead. Now if we're looking for the buying opportunities, what we can see is that price has in fact come back down, swept some previous higher time frame lows into this area of demand, and you can see it starting to react here, right? So we've had a sweep into this demand zone. If we were looking for sells, we could consider this to be an hourly change of character. If I was looking for sells, I would either look at this first supply zone, or alternatively we have this one slightly above. This one was already mitigated, meaning it's not in balance, but I would go from this one again simply because it's a clear area of supply that swept previous highs to the left. It's got this area of liquidity below it as well, but we can also look to potentially buy up into it. Step 3 in the trading plan, as always, to look for an M5 confirmation entry. Currently, in order to get that, I would need to see price break above this high. You can kind of see it it just like, you've got 1, 2, 3 highs right here. So I think it's very likely at some point you see those highs get taken out. So until that happens though, we don't have an entry. Okay, no, there we go. So price has now given us our M5 change of character. Is there an area of imbalanced demand to enter from? In this case, we have this sort of imbalance down here. The reason I wouldn't go for this first one is because it doesn't have any liquidity above it. So what my thought process here is that because there's no liquidity above this zone itself is the liquidity that price is likely going to take out before a potential move over to the upside. You could obviously refine this whole area to this demand down here, but what I personally like to do is just enter on like a more general area. Rather than miss the trade completely, I'm going to enter on the entire imbalance and then mechanically target a 1 to 3. Again, going from that trading plan, we're using a mechanical 1 to 3 risk to reward. And if you guys haven't tried this, I highly recommend it. It's one of the things that has massively benefited my own trading, because it kind of just takes the uncertainty and discretion out of where you target. If you don't have a mechanical risk to reward approach, you know that there's multiple areas that you could target. You could target the supply, you could target the liquidity, you could target this supply above, you could target this imbalance, and on and on and on, right? There's not really a clear, if you don't really have a clear mechanical rule, you're always going to make mistakes and you're always going to be kind of uncertain as to where you should actually close the trade. But with this fixed mechanical risk to reward, it just takes all of the headache out of it, right? Okay, there we go. So price tag this in. It probably, yeah, so it's slightly missed this demand down here. If you would have been entering on that, but it has tapped into the imbalance. Nice reaction so far. If you missed the initial entry, you could have probably got a re-entry, a first entry here, now that price has broken structure again. I want to be a bit cautious and mindful of this supply zone, just in case price respects it and goes back bearish. This entry would have missed, so that's fine. TP hit on that first trade though, very nice stuff. And like I said to you guys in the opening, very simple and mechanical process, just focusing on pure price action. Price has now come up into that supply zone though, so this is where we could start to see some sells. We've seen price take out this liquidity level into it. One thing with this strategy as well, and one thing I like to always emphasize, is you don't need to be completely right about higher time frame direction either, because let's imagine this scenario, right? Price has swept highs into this supply zone. Imagine if it does something like this, right? We were wrong about the overall bearish bias, but because we still saw price push down like this, and because we're entering on lower time frames, meaning we can still get a sufficient risk to reward, we don't have to be completely right. Price could eventually just continue up and go in the opposing direction. But because we're looking at liquidity, we know there's a high likelihood price reacts from these zones, and therefore we can look to capitalize on these shorter term moves. As of right now, still monitoring for a change of character, as always. I'm always waiting for a change of character. If price, yeah, there we go. So if price breaks this low, you can see it swept the first tap of the supply. Gold likes to do this a lot, where it will give an initial reaction from the supply, then manipulate it, then break over to the downside. So if I'm looking to enter this trade, I'd be waiting for a pullback into the supply. If we can see that, that would be great, and we can look to enter this trade. So I'm going to set a limit here. Again, just 1 to 3 mechanical risk to reward, like so. I'm going to get rid of some of these markings now as well, because price has flipped back bearish from that supply zone. So I'm looking for the sells now instead of the buys. If we get rid of some of these markings as well. So kind of leaning more towards that bearish narrative, which was that price has reacted from supply, shifted bearish, then come up and reacted from this supply. So yeah, let's see if price can pull back for us here. Okay, nope. So this limit now becomes invalid because price broke the main trend low. Cool. So we can now look for another trading opportunity. Following on from this breaker structure, what do we have? This area up here, you can see price has kind of created some liquidity below it. This would still be valid as a point of interest, but not for a limit. I would want to see another confirmation in this zone. So let's see if price can pull back for us into that area. I wouldn't really want to sell from this one because no liquidity has been taken out. So I'm just going to let this develop. Okay, no. So price broke structure again. Obviously, it's not pulling all the way back into our region now. So we can kind of delete this one and look for a different area. If we zoom back out to the 4 hour, let's have a look. I still think price is likely gravitating towards at least this previous low, which is the last bit of liquidity before this imbalance. If price could take this out, we could maybe look for some more buys in line with that daily bullish trend. But until that happens, like I said, if you look to the left, there's not really anything for price to likely react from and flip back bullish. So I would be looking for more sells. This is the, actually I'm going to refine that. We have this area of 4 hour supply if price wants to pull back into there. But I would also be looking for some other points of interest because it's not, in my opinion, likely price pulls all the way back into there. So let's see how this develops. I'm liking this actually. Notice how we've got this hourly wick. Very clear liquidity level leading into this imbalance. If price can sweep this and then starts to give us an entry, I would be happy to sell from there. So yeah, let's see if price can take that out. It looks very likely, right? There's not anything else that it would likely react from to the left. Right, there we go. So liquidity level has been taken out. M5 structure, let's have a look. Hasn't flipped bearish just yet, so still waiting. That's what I was talking about again, by the way. So notice how gold sweeps the highs one more time, then gives you the change of character after all of these initial sellers are taken out. If I'm entering this trade, I'm looking to enter from this supply zone up here, which is the whole region where the volume came in. So looking to enter from there, stops just above, and again, mechanical 1 to 3 TP. So this is the trade. Let's see if we get tagged in. There we go, we're tagged in. Nice corrective pullback, which is what we want to see basically. I'll play this on higher time frame. So, oh, there we go. So that was actually a pretty quick trade. You can see price tapped in and then sold off. Has pushed back up. So if we're looking for another selling opportunity, I was going to say maybe look at this supply zone. Price has swept the top of it. So this would still be valid. If price can start to present a confirmation here, this would still be valid. One of the things I talk about a lot is that rather than focusing on the supply and demand levels themselves, if they are taken out, i.e. if they're swept, so if price, for example, goes slightly above it, pay extra attention because this is typically when you're going to see price react from them. In this case, we don't have any M5 structure yet, so maybe if we can see this high broken one more time and re-grabbed. Apart from that, there wouldn't be a valid entry here. But yeah, there we go. Price has grabbed the high one more time. I've also just noticed we have this area of supply to the left. It was already mitigated, but like I said previously, because it is in the extreme of this current range and because liquidity has been swept into it, I would go from this again if we can get an entry. I just fast forward Asia session there because obviously I wouldn't be trading it. In order for us to see a change of character, we need to see this low broken. There we go. So that low was broken. I was going to say enter from this area. I placed price slightly too quickly there though, so that was my bad. Actually, no, we could still look for an entry here. So you can see, even though I missed this initial entry, price has come up, grabbed the highs, this is a little harder to see, but we've had a change of character just there. Price broke the current higher low. It created an area of imbalanced supply. Notice how this one grabbed the high to the left as well. This makes it higher probability, which I found through data, which is that if you guys focus on the areas of supply and demand which sweep previous liquidity to the left, they are more likely to hold. So in this case, we can get, one thing I always like to do, or don't like to do, is I won't want to target past the external low, which is this one. So I'm kind of adjusting my stop loss here to make this a 1 to 3 before that low is hit. So yeah, let's see if this pulls back. Okay, so price didn't want to pull back for us. I shouldn't have entered that. That was invalid. There we go. Price is now pushing back up, so we can look for a different opportunity. Quite a lot of bullish momentum coming in here. You can see how price wicked out the lows. In a scenario like that, you would maybe expect price now to go for the opposing liquidity at the highs. We still have that 4-hour supply zone just above as well. So let's see how this develops. Okay, nice. So price is wicked into our 4-hour supply zone. Notice as well where it's reacting from. It's not really reacting from anything significant. That's likely to cause it to reverse to the upside. So still looking for the shorts here. Price gave us a change of character just here. We've got this area of imbalanced supply. This is a valid trade. I'm going to enter this if price can pull back. One thing I would do here though is have my, so we can get a 1 to 3 before the low is hit. I would have my stops just above this one because price may also want to retest that supply zone. But yeah, if it can pull back here, this is valid. Cool, so we're tagged in. By the way, the change of character I'm referring to, I didn't mark it on, but it was this one. Another confluence we now have is that price created some liquidity below that supply zone. Swept the liquidity into the supply. So yeah, let's see how this develops. I'll play it on higher time frame just so it's a bit quicker for you guys. Nice one. So perfect trade actually. Price just tagged us in and then instantly went to TP. So that was pretty nice. One thing I'm liking here now, we've had another break of structure, right? Notice where prices trade into the left. It's pulling back before sweeping these lows. So here what we've got to ask ourselves is, what is the probability that this is a reversal to the upside versus price continuing down? In this case, it's much more likely price continues down because it hasn't swept any liquidity, so it's very unlikely going to reverse from this level. If we're looking to get back in the sells, maybe this whole area is the supply. Maybe if price can retest into there. Apart from that, there's not anything else I would sell from. Right, there we go. So price is pulled back. Very corrective pullback as well. That's kind of what we want to see. M5 structure, we want to see this low broken for an entry. Yep, so like that. There we go. If we zoom out, where could we see price maybe trade into for an entry? Maybe this one. We have this area of supply right here which was imbalanced. So I'm going to set my limit on this. Stop slightly above, and then we'll go for a 1 to 3. Let's see if this pulls back. There we go, so we're tagged in. Nice reaction so far. Oh, okay, so down. Price went like 2% in our favor and then stopped us out. It has now kind of come up though. You see this supply is reacting from now. It swept these previous highs just below it and reacting from this area. I'm going to look to get back in. If price can pull back here, it has given us a change of character from this area. So if it can pull back into the supply, which is this area, I'm going to look to get back in this. This would be quite nice. Stops just above and 1 to 3 TP. So let's have a look. Can it pull back for us? Damn, is it going to miss us? I think it swerved us there. Yeah, so got swerved on that one. Analysis was spot on though, so that's positive of that. Yeah, let's see how price develops from here. I'm not really seeing anything else just yet. It's kind of pushing back up. So one thing that I would be cautious of here is you've kind of got these two relative equal highs. I wouldn't want to sell below those. If price can take these out, I would consider selling again because it would still be holding this 4-hour supply. But yeah, it looks very much like it's kind of gravitating towards them. It's building liquidity below that area. Yeah, so there you go. That's exactly what I was expecting. Sweep of those previous highs. We do have an M15 change of character just here and an area of supply. I wouldn't personally go off this one because notice how it was wicked out afterwards. That basically invalidates it for me. So I'm just going to play price on here because it's not a valid trade. Yeah, there you go. So it would have played out, but that wasn't quite valid for me. I think I just missed the buy as well. So notice how price has reacted from we were looking for this liquidity level to get swept. This was our buying point of interest. You can see now price has swept it and started to react. Yeah, so that's slightly annoying. I missed the initial entry. You can see on the M5, it did in fact flip bullish. Maybe if price can pull back into this demand for us, I'd look to enter again. Let's see, can it pull back? Nope, doesn't look like it. I'm actually going to enter on this area instead. Basically just adapt into the momentum. Like once you see all of this momentum, right, you're not expecting price to pull all the way back down into like this area. It's just very unlikely. And yeah, we can still get a 1 to 3 here, targeting the high. So if price can pull back into here, that would be nice. Looks like it swerved us again though. Yeah, there we go. So there wasn't really an entry there that I would have taken. Price never really pulled back for us. You can see now as well, like I said, keeping in mind that the daily time frame is overall still bullish, and it has now, if we get rid of some of these markings, you can see it has now swept this daily liquidity level, leading into that imbalance. And this, like I said, was the last bit of internal liquidity, internal lows, into the imbalance. You can see price starting to shift bullish here as well. On the 1 hour, this was our 1 hour change of character. So what I'm thinking here is maybe we could see some more buying opportunities. If price could, for example, pull back into the demand, obviously with another with another confirmation, I would look to enter from there. That would be a valid trade. So yeah, let's have a look. Another point of interest for me actually would be if price can grab these lows and tap into the imbalance. Right, so there we go. Lows have been swept. You can see price starting to react from it. The only thing here, there's not any valid M5 structure unless price comes up all the way to here. This would be our change of character in this case. So let's see if price can push up to there, or if it comes down and re-grabs the low into the demand, that would also be valid. So let's just have a look. Yeah, there we go. So that's our change of character, right? I'm gonna fast forward Asian session. This looks good actually. So we've had obviously our change of character, sweep of liquidity, overall bullish price action. We've got an area of demand just here. So if we enter this and just go for a 1 to 3, let's see if price can retrace for us into this area. There we go. Notice as well how price created some inducement above this area. Again, once you see that, it makes the trade higher probability. Okay, nope. So we got a small reaction, went 2% in our favor, but price is continuing to the downside, it looks like. What I would instead look for now is maybe if price can take out this low into the demand zone. You can see it's kind of held this 15-minute supply, which you could say as well caused a change of character. You could say this was a 15-minute change of character. Did it react from anything to the left? Kind of reacted from this previous area up here. Yeah, so we could still maybe see some shorts from here. Yeah, there we go. So liquidity taken into the demand. If we can see an M5 entry here, I would still look for the buys. There's nothing just yet though. Yeah, okay, so now obviously that idea has been invalidated. And what I would maybe look for now is just for some more sells. Kind of viewing this as a sweep of previous highs into the supply instead of a change of character. So maybe if we can see price pull back into this supply, we could look for the shorts. Okay, nope, so obviously it's not pulling back there now. We can adapt to the new structure which has formed and look for maybe this area of demand, sorry, this area of supply. If price can pull back into there, this would be a valid opportunity. Obviously with a confirmation as well. There we go, so we have some inducement being swept into it. M5 time frame. Damn, I missed the entry there. I played it slightly too quickly, but this was the change of character. Price pulled back, swept this supply zone into the imbalance. So yeah, I played price slightly too quickly there, but this should have been the entry targeting like 1 to 3 down here. And yeah, that would have played out very nicely, but unfortunately I played it slightly too quickly there. That was my bad, but that would have been the trade. And you can see now as well, if we zoom back out, prices has broken that main trend low, which was right there. And overall it's continued bearish, right? So I'm still thinking at the moment we could see some further sells. Looking to the left, it's kind of just trading within this imbalance now. So the next area I would consider buys from would be if price could come all the way down here to this area of demand. Apart from that, there's not, like I said, there's not really anything for it to react from. One of the confluences that I always like to emphasize inside VIP is that looking to the left, where is price reacting from? If it hasn't swept any liquidity and if it hasn't reacted from an area of higher time frame supply / demand, it's very unlikely that price reverses, right? It's much more likely we see continuations. In this case, because it has broken that external low, we would ideally want to see price retrace deeper into the range before then continuing lower. In this case, we have this area of supply, right? With some previous inducement below it. Buys here, for me, are not valid, so I would either be waiting for that pullback or I would be waiting for price to come lower into the demand. But apart from that, there's nothing else that I would be looking for here. Okay, there we go. So price has come up into our supply zone. It's swept some previous highs into it, right? So if we jump over to the M5 time frame, let's have a look. So in order for a change of character, we would want to see this broken. Yeah, there we go. So that low was broken. Entry point of interest, we have this one. If price can trade back into there. So yeah, let's have a look. Let's set this trade. Let's see if price can pull back for us. Slightly induced it at the moment. Actually, going back on the M15, we have this area of supply up here. So I'm going to set my limit slightly above at this M15 supply. Like I said before, this trade becomes higher probability now because we've got some inducement resting below the area. So I'm going to set my limit here and we will see if price pulls back. Okay, so now we have some equal highs resting below it as well. This is still a valid trade, so I'm going to keep my limit. We could also now, I wouldn't want to set a limit on this, but we could also adapt to this new breaker structure. Price has broken structure there, pulled back into the supply. If we can see an entry here, I would be happy to enter. Yeah, there we go. So you can see if you zoom in on that, M5 change of character. Can we get a 1 to 3 targeting the lows if we just enter like this? No, so I would want at least a pullback to make it a 1 to 3, maybe to here. Obviously, you could also refine the entry and enter from the supply up here, but personally, I would just rather avoid missing the trade and get in on this more generic entry. Okay, nope, so price never pulled back for us. This becomes invalid because it broke the main trend low. Original limit up here is still valid if price can pull back for us. All of this essentially just becomes some inducement now instead, if it can push up from here. Right, there we go. So price has pushed up, tagged us in. Nice reaction so far. Let's see if this can continue pushing. I'll play it on higher time frame as well, just see it's quicker for you guys. And there we go, nice TP here. So guys, I'm gonna end the session here because this video is getting quite long now. If you haven't seen any of the previous gold backtesting series, I would recommend watching this video next. It's the start of the 2022 gold backtesting series where we backtest the entirety of 2022. So I hope you guys all enjoyed this video. Make sure to like and subscribe if you did, if you want to see more of these videos as well. And I will see you guys in the next video.